All right, so this is a quick demonstration of what the app is able to do, which is place objects, manipulate objects, and place them in the real world on real world scale. And compared to things like ShapesXR or Archeo or Gravity Sketch, this is really meant to be used in a real world scale and at a distance as well. So you don't have to rescale the entire scene. You can just walk around and edit it as you go. So if I move here and I select one thing, I can move it around and I can move it further, move it closer using the thumbstick, and I can place it back again where I found it. I can select objects using raycasting, so I can select them at any distance I want. And I have a couple of tools, which are the select tool, which doesn't have any handles, which allows you to more precisely, when clicking, open the context menu. You have the translate tool, which allows you to either translate on an axis, and again, with the thumbstick, you can move your spatial cursor further away or closer. And of course, you can press undo or along an axis. If you have multiple objects selected, such as these cabinets, and you start moving things around, it moves all of the cabinets. Then we have the rotate tool, which allows you to rotate. And this works again spatially with the spatial cursor, and you can move that back and forth again as you like. If you move it closer to you, you can see that you can make more precise adjustments to the rotation. And we also have stabilization for the cursor. So when moving around with small increments, it doesn't change. When moving beyond the radius, it does change, which allows you to, when it's further away, still make precise adjustments, even though your hand is a bit shaky. And of course, the rotation works with multiple selected objects as well. Then we have scaling, which is a simple tool. You can just make things really wacky or out of proportion. Then we have the scale box tool, which allows you to scale just like you would in something like Photoshop. And again, this works with multiple objects as well. So let me just quickly select these. And if I duplicate them, move them here, I can scale this. And I can use the thumbstick to quickly select the tool, which allows me to switch rather quickly from the scaling to the moving. And that takes some getting used to, but once you get it in your muscle memory, it becomes really quick to use. So let's say I have these objects selected. I can scale them all at the same time, even though they're not in one hierarchy, scene hierarchy. And I can move them around, duplicate things, move them around. And that is the core interaction model for moving and duplicating objects, for example. You can always undo everything, which is really useful. And you can delete things as well. We have the draw rect tool, which allows you to draw a rectangle, which is what all of these shapes are made of. If you press, similar to the other tools, you can drag where you want to place things around, and this works with raycasting along the plane. So if you move it really far, you can do that. You can also use world position. And then while using that, you can use Shift, which is the A button, or the X button, depending on whether you are which hand you is your dominant hand, and you can move in that way. If I press, it goes to the next step, which is determining the rectangle. And if I press again, it becomes a cube or a cuboid. And then we can do anything with it we like. We can move and rotate it around like this. And we can also change its properties. So a shape has a corner quality, which is currently not really visible. There's a radius, which gets updated live. And if we select a color, let's say we want red, we can do that. And if we have multiple objects and we select both objects, we can change both properties. And we can undo that as well. If we change one of them, let's say we change it to blue, and currently there's very yellow lighting, so that's why you see the highlighting like this. We can set the corner quality. You can see that it has more triangles in the corners. And we can change this property as well. If we select multiple, it says multiple. And if we change it, it starts editing it as if it were the same value. And then moving back and forth, you can see what it does. Same goes for the color. If I start editing the color to be the same, let's say I want it a little bit darker, and I undo, I can see that it is multiple. You can also use RGB values, which is might be easier for some people. And that is basically it. That's how the properties work. That is the interaction model for that. And this allows you this combination of items. You can also copy and paste things. So let's say I copy this, and I paste it, it pastes it at the original location. And what this allows me to do is, if I have this and this and this selected, I do copy, I save the document, I go back, and I paste it. I get only this thing, and I can save it into a new file, which is entitled 37. You can get some information about that document, and we can go back to the original file. So that allows me to do normal operations as you would in a normal editing piece of software. So the way you get 3D models into the application is by building an asset collection in Unity. There is planned support for GOTF and OBJ and other standard formats, but currently you need to use the Unity editor for that. And once putting the build folder onto the headset, you get this list of assets, and it shows previews of the objects, and you can drag them into the scene like this. Now we have a tree inside of innovation space. So this is really the application in its current form, and there are a lot of plans to make it more robust and to support some more advanced editing capabilities, and also allow import and export between different programs. The core interaction model is there, and it's just a lot of fun to use. So I was creating this application or this environment, and it really, really feels like you're there. And I can experience it, get a feel for how it might look. And just to give a quick comparison, when I go back, this is the original space. So I open it again, I see my changes, I see the things I've added, and delete these really quickly again. I can also duplicate the file. So let's say I want to make some changes that I don't know of whether they're really what I want. I can save it, go back to the original, and open this one again. And I can see that I've made some changes. Then I can also change my dominant hand, which is the, because I'm left-handed, I was like, that's the first thing I need to implement. Because you really want to use your dominant hand for pointing things around. And we have a grid, which allows you to see how high it has deemed the floor to be. And you can add the world axis, which is where you originally started working on. There are also plans to support calibration, because that's going to be really important when you close the document and you need to place it back, but you have moved a lot, so it doesn't have the feature points or guardian in its memory again. And what's interesting about using Unity to import 3D models is that it supports all Unity asset things. So if you have animations, or you have audio, or you have anything, you can just import it. And this log really shows that as well. It uses the standard shader, or the universal rendering pipeline shader, which has displacement mapping and looks really good. And that's really the main advantage as well compared to other design programs. It's really just assets from Unity, allowing you to be creatively expressive and change anything you want, even if the application itself doesn't support creating that yet. So currently you're able to create some shapes, but you're not able to create really complicated things like this. And by simply importing them, you can make any scene you want, which is really, really fun to do. And this is a 3D model I created a little while ago in Blender, and I could literally just import it into Unity, one click into building the asset collection, and I can just place it around right now. Even though it has a complicated hierarchy, it works. And I can even get a really close view as if I were really here. I can even move it a bit. Make it a bit smaller so this house doesn't get thrown away. And it's all spatial, it's all 3D. It feels really weird, so I'm constantly being startled by these guys because I really feel like they're there. And it's a really fun way to experiment with changing an environment, maybe adding some greenery, or testing out a new floor plan. And because you're able to import anything from anything via the Unity editor, you can import your SketchUp models, or you can import anything you can imagine, as long as Unity supports it. And then you can make some basic adjustments, record a video just like this, or you can have other people experience it on the headset. Yeah, I hope this can be useful in your workflow or in anything you're doing. Thanks for watching.